He stood like a statue, the tomb guard's boots echoing across Arlington's sacred ground. 21 steps, turn, pause. But in the crowd, a shadow moved. A man with cold eyes and a hidden gun watched, waiting. To the tourists, he was just another face. To Jacob Walsh, he was a threat to everything the tomb stood for. In a single heartbeat, a routine patrol would become a deadly standoff, one where a single move could shatter the silence of this hallowed place. What happened next would leave the crowd speechless and a fugitive's plans in ruins. Before we dive into this story, where are you watching from? Let us know in the comments. And if you believe that values like honor, courage, and sacrifice still matter, join us in keeping their legacy alive. The autumn morning at Arlington National Cemetery was crisp, the kind of day where the air felt clean and the sunlight turned the rows of white headstones into a glowing sea of honor. At the tomb of the unknown soldier, Jacob Walsh stood sentinel, his navy blue uniform pristine, his kepi hat angled just so, his sunglasses reflecting the quiet reverence of the place. Every movement was precise. 21 steps, a sharp turn, 21 seconds of pause. Then the cycle began again. For Jacob, this wasn't just duty. It was a sacred trust, a vow to honor the fallen who'd given everything for the country he loved. Jacob was 32, a former Army Ranger with 2 tours in the Middle East under his belt. He'd seen the chaos of war, felt the weight of decisions made in split seconds. Now as a tomb guard, his world was one of discipline, where every step was a tribute to those who never came home. Behind his stoic facade, his senses were razor sharp, honed by years of training and instinct. He noticed everything: the rustle of leaves, the murmur of tourists, the rhythm of his own heartbeat. Among the crowd gathered at the tomb that morning was a man who didn't belong. Victor Merazv, a 42-year-old international fugitive, stood near the edge of the viewing area, his leather jacket too polished for a casual tourist. His neatly trimmed beard and slick-back hair screamed sophistication, but his scuffed combat boots told another story. A past of violence, of missions and shadows. Victor was wanted by Interpol for terrorism and armed smuggling. A ghost who'd slipped through the law's fingers too many times. Today he was here with a plan. His hand resting casually near the pocket where a CZ-75B pistol modified for silent kills waited. Victor's eyes tracked Jacob's every move, not with the awe of a sightseer, but with the cold precision of a predator. He snapped a few photos, his camera propped to blend in, but his focus was on sightlines, security gaps, and the rhythm of the guard's patrol. He muttered under his breath, just loud enough for Jacob to catch fragments over the breeze. Symbols of arrogance, American weakness. The words didn't faze Jacob. He'd heard worse. But something about Victor's stance, too balanced, too controlled, set off alarms in his gut. Nearby, Margaret Hayes, a 68-year-old retired librarian and former Army nurse, was guiding a group of school kids through the cemetery. Her gray hair was tucked under a volunteer cap, but her eyes were sharp as ever. She'd spent years in war zones patching up soldiers, and she had a sixth sense for trouble. She caught Victor's odd questions earlier when he lingered by her information booth, asking about guard schedules and security cameras with a feigned curiosity. Now watching him hover near the tomb, she felt it again, that prickle of unease. She edged closer, pretending to adjust a pamphlet display, and caught Jacob's glance during a brief pause in his patrol. Margaret kept her voice low, barely a whisper. "Jacob, that man in the leather jacket. He's asking too many questions. Something's not right." Jacob's face didn't twitch, but he gave a faint nod, his eyes flicking toward Victor. He resumed his patrol, but now every sense was locked on the stranger. Victor's movements were too deliberate, his gaze too clinical. Jacob spotted the telltale bulge under the man's jacket, the slight asymmetry that screamed concealed weapon. His pulse stayed steady, but his mind was already calculating angles, distances, and outcomes. The crowd was a mix of families, veterans, and tourists, their voices a soft hum against the solemnity of the tomb. A young couple snapped selfies. A group of kids clutched American flags. and a cluster of gay-haired veterans stood quietly, their eyes misty with memory. Among them, Victor moved closer to the tomb's viewing area, his path weaving through the crowd with a casualness that felt rehearsed. He paused near a low barrier, his hand brushing the edge of his jacket. Jacob caught the motion, his instinct screaming. This wasn't a tourist. This was a threat. Victor's voice cut through the air, low but deliberate, aimed at Jacob. "Quite the show you put on here, soldier. All this pomp, all this ceremony for what? A dying empire." His accent was polished, almost neutral, but carried a hard edge like steel beneath velvet. Jacob didn't respond, his eyes fixed on a distant point as protocol demanded. But he catalogued every detail. The way Victor's weight shifted to his right leg, the faint scent of gun oil wafting from his jacket, the way his fingers twitched near his pocket. The crowd began to sense something off. The young couple lowered their phones, frowning. A mother pulled her kids closer, her face tightening. The veterans exchanged glances, their posture stiffening. Margaret, still near her booth, watched it all unfold, her hand hovering near an emergency call button. She'd seen this kind of tension before in field hospitals where danger lurked in the quiet moments. She pressed the button, her movements subtle, praying help would arrive in time. Victor stepped closer, his voice dropping to a hiss meant for Jacob alone. "You stand here guarding a tomb while your country crumbles. Multicultural chaos, weak leaders, a nation too soft to survive. We see it. We're ready to show the world how fragile your symbols are." His hand moved to his jacket, slow and deliberate, like a snake uncoiling. Jacob's heart didn't race. It steadied, his training taking over. He knew the next few seconds would change everything. Victor's hand emerged, the sunlight glinting off the blue steel of a CZ-75B pistol. The crowd gasped, a woman stifled a scream, and the veterans instinctively moved to shield the kids. Victor held the gun low, not yet aimed, savoring the moment. "Beautiful, isn't it?" he said, his voice almost reverent, modified for precision. 15 rounds of truth. He flicked off the safety with a soft click, the sound echoing like a thunderclap in the stunned silence. "This is where your ceremony ends, guard. One shot and your sacred tomb becomes a headline." Jacob's eyes remained forward, his posture perfect, but every muscle was coiled, ready. He'd faced ambushes in dusty villages, disarmed insurgents in crowded markets. This was no different. He tracked Victor's stance, Eastern European military training modified by years of black ops work. The gun's grip showed custom work. The barrels were patterns hinting at real-world use, not range practice. Victor wasn't bluffing, but neither was Jacob. The fugitive raised the pistol, slow and theatrical, his finger resting alongside the trigger, a sign of advanced training. "Any last words, guard?" he taunted. "Any defense of your precious system? Or will you die like your country? Silent, weak, clinging to empty traditions." The crowd was frozen, a tableau of fear. A child whimpered, buried in his mother's arms. Margaret's eyes locked on Jacob, her faith in him unshakable. The veteran stood ready, one reaching for a cane like it was a weapon. Time seemed to stretch, each second an eternity. Victor's finger began to curl toward the trigger, his eyes gleaming with triumph. Then Jacob moved, not the ceremonial steps of a tomb guard, but the lethal precision of a combat veteran. In a blur, his gloved hand shot out, clamping onto the pistol slide with a grip forged in countless hours of training. Before Victor could react, Jacob twisted the weapon, his fingers finding the exact pressure points to wrench it free. The gun seemed to vanish from Victor's grasp, now in Jacob's control, as if it had never been his. Jacob's movements were a ballet of efficiency. His thumb hit the magazine release, the clip dropping free and landing in his other hand. The weight told him it was fully loaded, brass rounds gleaming in the sun. His fingers flicked the slide, ejecting the chambered round in a graceful arc, the 9mm bullet pinging against the stone plaza like a bell. Safety on, chamber clear, weapons secured. All in under 3 seconds. The crowd blinked, some later swearing they'd seen nothing but a flash of white glove in Victor's empty hand. Victor stood frozen, his smug facade shattered, his fingers grasping at air. His face twisted from shock to rage. "You," he snarled, but Jacob cut him off, his voice calm, but carrying the weight of authority. Modified trigger assembly. Montenegro craftsmanship. Subsonic ammo. Serbian spring. Approximately 2,000 rounds fired based on the barrel wear. His glove fingers traced the pistol's frame. His analysis clinical. "You chose the wrong place and the wrong man." Victor lunged, desperation replacing strategy. But Jacob was ready. Using the pistol's grip as a pivot, he brought the rear sight down in a precise arc, connecting with the bridge of Victor's nose. Cartilage crunched, blood sprayed, staining the fugitive's leather jacket. Victor staggered, clutching his face, his voice thick with pain. "You broke my nose." Jacob's response was ice cold. "I neutralized a threat to this sacred ground. The broken nose is incidental." The crowd erupted in murmurs, some cheering, others still dazed. Margaret ushered the kids and families toward safety, her voice steady despite the chaos. The veterans nodded in approval, one muttering, "That's how it's done, son." Sirens wailed in the distance, growing louder as Arlington's security team closed in. Jacob held Victor at bay, the fugitive's bravado gone, his blood dripping onto the plaza like a countdown. "You'll regret this," Victor spat, his words slurred through blood. "We're everywhere. This isn't over." Jacob's eyes didn't waver. "It was over the moment you drew that weapon. You didn't notice the silent alarm triggered 2 minutes ago, or the cameras catching your face from 6 angles. Metropolitan Police are sealing every exit as we speak." Victor's face palled, the sirens now deafening as police vehicles screeched to a halt nearby. Jacob maintained his post, the pistol secured in his grip, his posture returning to ceremonial perfection. Armed security officers swarmed the plaza, cuffing Victor and dragging him toward a van. A detective approached Jacob, his notepad ready. "That was some move, soldier. Got anything on this guy?" Jacob's voice was steady, professional. Suspect carried a modified CZ-75B, likely sourced through Balkan networks. His stance suggests paramilitary training, Eastern European, possibly Serbian. Check Interpol's database. His accent and ideology matched known extremist profiles. The detective's eyebrows rose, but he scribbled furiously. One of his officers rushed over holding a tablet. "Sir, facial recognition just pinged. This guy's Viktor Morozov, wanted for multiple attacks across Europe. Interpol's been after him for years." The detective nodded grimly. "We'll have his face on every news channel by tonight. That nose won't let him hide long." He glanced at the blood trail Victor left behind. "Nice touch with the rear sight, by the way." Jacob's expression didn't change. The CZ-75B sight is effective when applied with proper force. The suspect will need medical attention within hours, making him easy to track. The detective chuckled, shaking his head. "We'll need a full statement later, but for now, anything else?" Jacob's eyes scanned the perimeter, ever vigilant. "Check underground clinics in DC's eastern districts. He'll likely seek treatment from Balkan expatriate networks." As the police cordoned off the area, life at Arlington began to settle. Tourists, now at a safe distance, watched as forensics teams photographed the blood trail and recovered the ejected bullet. Margaret approached Jacob, her volunteer cap slightly askew, but her eyes shining with pride. "My husband was a Marine," she said softly. "Buried here, unknown to most. You honored him today, Jacob." "All of them." Jacob met her gaze, his voice quiet but firm. "It's what we do, ma'am. For them." One of the veterans, a wiry man with a silver star pin, stepped forward, offering a crisp salute. "Army retired," he said. "That was textbook, son. Reminded me of Nam. Calm till it's time to move." Jacob returned the salute, his form flawless. "Thank you, sir. Just doing my duty." The veteran grinned. "Duty? Oh, you're a damn fine soldier. Standards haven't slipped since my day." The sun dipped lower, casting long shadows across the plaza. Jacob resumed his patrol. 21 steps. Turn. As if nothing had happened. His medals gleamed, each one a story of sacrifice and service. The crowd watched in awe, their whispers now filled with respect. A young boy clutching his flag pointed at Jacob. "Mom, is he a superhero?" His mother smiled, tears in her eyes. "Something like that, honey." In his mind, Jacob replayed the day, not with pride, but with quiet resolve. The tomb wasn't just stone and marble. It was the heart of a nation, a reminder of those who'd paid the ultimate price. Viktor Mrazov thought he could defile it, but he'd underestimated the men who stood guard. Jacob's thoughts turned to Margaret's husband, to the unknowns resting beneath the tomb, to the countless others buried across Arlington's hills. This was for them. As the police vans pulled away, Victor's curses fading into the distance, the detective's radio crackled with updates. Surveillance cameras had tracked the fugitive's earlier movements, and hospitals were on alert. The net was closing, and Morozov's broken nose would mark him like a beacon. Jacob didn't need to hear the outcome. He'd done his part. The tomb was safe, its honor intact. The afternoon faded into dusk, the cemetery's quiet beauty untouched by the day's chaos. Jacob's steps echoed softly, each one a promise kept. He thought of the veterans who'd stood with him, of Margaret's steady courage, of the boy with the flag. This was why he served, not for glory, but for the legacy of those who'd come before. The tomb guard's creed ran through his mind. "My dedication to this duty is unyielding. I will not falter." What would you do in Jacob's shoes? Could you stand steady knowing danger was inches away and act with such precision when the moment came? These are the men and women who guard our nation's heart, not just with ceremony, but with unwavering resolve. Share your thoughts. Have you ever seen someone rise to a crisis like this? What does Arlington mean to you? Let us know and honor the fallen by keeping their stories alive. The script ends here, but Jacob's watch continues. 21 steps turn, pause, each one a testament to duty, to courage, to America. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button for more emotional, dramatic, and unexpected tales. And thanks for watching, and see you in the next video.